And bow your heads. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this evening. We thank you for the opportunity that we have to once again come and make decisions on behalf of a city that we all love so much. Be with us tonight as we make these decisions, God. Guide our steps, God. And we, in this time, just take a moment and say a special prayer for Tennessee Representative Jim Cooper and the passing of his wife today. Be with him and his family and friends during this time. Thank you, Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, approval of agenda and executive session announcements.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Johnson?
Commissioner Lucas?
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson?
Aye.
Commissioner Butler?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Rainey?
Aye. Public hearings? There are none tonight. Citizen comments, Ms. Johnson?
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 tonight. The first one is Miss Eileen Brogan.
Eileen, if you'll state your name and your address.
Evening. I'm Eileen Brogan, and my address is 7106 Brush Creek Road South, and I am here as the president of Friends of Bowie Park, and speaking about the proposed development to be known as the neighborhood of Bowie Park. As you know, Bowie Nature Park is downhill and downstream from this property, which is a cause for much concern regarding the park. I realize that this is not a back and forth exchange, but at some point tonight, if someone could please let us know, will there be an environmental impact study regarding this development? The lots that are along the park border slope toward the park, and on the plan, there's no storm basin between those lots and the park. There is one down the steeper and other side slope, but it's a pretty small one, and it's not going to catch what's coming down toward the park. The developer said that the buffer, which is shown as 25 feet, would be raised to 35 feet, but in the amended plan, it still shows 25 feet. So it's 25 feet of buffer between the park and this development is all that's shown. Pollution mitigation is another issue that's related to runoff. The water washing over this development is likely to contain fertilizers and pesticides, and these will wash into the park along with oil and gas from roads and driveways, polluting Hickman Branch and from there the Little Turnbull Creek. And it would just be a shame to spoil or diminish the park with a development that is obviously trying to use its proximity to the park as a selling point, or I'm sure from the developer's standpoint as an attempt to showcase it. Thank you.
Johnson?
Second one tonight is Miss Tiffany Wilson-Mobley.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Wilson-Mobley, and my address is 7303 Cox Run Court, Fairview, Tennessee. Good evening to everyone present and everyone watching at home. Tonight, our elected commissioners will discuss the proposed development going in next to Bowie Nature Park. There will be a vote to decide if a public hearing will be scheduled to further discuss the rezoning request from low density to medium density. If approved for medium density, no matter how fancy that sounds with words like POD, PUD, overlay, it still means 90 to 150 or more homes and a second park entrance. Although our commissioners may have already decided to move to a public hearing, in truth, they don't have to. The land is already zoned for it's already zoned for low density, 1 acre lot neighborhood development that would not threaten wildlife, streams, and trails of the park. We don't need to move to a public hearing, commissioners. We just need you to make the developer bring the right plan to build low density. Please reset this process by voting no tonight. There is a petition, as I'm sure you are aware, circulating that calls for this zoning request to be denied. As of today, more than 1,700 people, hundreds of Fairview residents and people from all over Middle Tennessee who know and love this park have signed this petition. Their request is simple. I just want to make sure. Do I have your attention, sir? Thank you. Deny the rezoning request and work with the developer, the right developer, to design a low-density 1-acre lot neighborhood that takes care of the fragile and beloved Bowie Nature Park. This is very important to us. This is so important to us. The rezoning request would also have potentially catastrophic impact in our neighborhood and other homes around it. Stormwater already causes regular damage to property and homes in our subdivision, Cox Run, and has for decades. Just this past summer, as you've heard, one family suffered more than $40,000 in flood damage. Several homes suffer ongoing damage even in light rain. This problem has not been addressed by the city, and we're not quite sure if it will. It's causing a lot of damage to us and loss of property. The development proposed would turn quiet, safe neighborhood streets like Cox Run Drive and Mangrum Drive into the main entrance for hundreds of cars. These streets were not designed or intended as main thoroughfares. You're putting a subdivision next to a park, and you have to go through ours to get there. These are streets that we walk on. We don't have sidewalks. We don't want our pets and children to be afraid that they're going to be hit. Neighbors with family members with special needs rely on the safety and quiet of these streets to walk each day. These are just a few of the problems with the decision to rezone this development to medium density. There's more to say, but we only have 3 minutes. We call on the board to deny this request and say no to the next step, a public hearing. Reset this process. Start the right way. Consider what needs to be done to develop a neighborhood that earns the right to border this park, that honors the legacy of Dr. Bowie and her sisters, and doesn't forever damage existing neighborhoods filled with family and children, lifelong residents, and even new arrivals who moved here for the quiet beauty of our town. Honor the park. Honor the family that owns this property, the Groves family, and their father's memory. Honor all those who have lent their voice. Honor our city and say no to a public hearing. Stop this, please, from moving any further. Thank you.
Item 7, public announcements, awards, and recognitions. We have none tonight. Staff comments. Mr. Collins.
Mayor, just one item for you tonight. You'll soon be getting an email from me with a couple of proposed dates. As you may recall, some of you, each year we do a Focus on Fairview event. The way we do those is we do a Saturday morning Focus on Fairview, then we do a repeat of the same information on a following Tuesday or following Thursday. The purpose of that is to give the public, obviously all of you, a snapshot of where Fairview is operationally, financially, and kind of a broader discussion that's more of a question and answer presentation so everyone understands kind of where we are. This Focus on Fairview this year will be a little more important than in some years past because, as I've expressed to all of you, we're going to make some financial decisions later on this calendar year. They're going to have substantial impact on the city for quite some time, decades in fact. So our discussion that we have during the Focus on Fairview event will be very important. We will have enough information at the time. There's some financial information we're still waiting from the state. Some additional we're waiting from the county. We'll be able to answer those questions. But when we do those dates, we'll open them up. We'll likely have a breakfast event, maybe an evening event to follow up for that, and we hope we get as much participation as we can. But the business plan we have to address and discuss at those meetings will be substantially important to our future. So as soon as we get those dates, I'll get those out to you, and we hope that we have as much participation as we can as we follow up on those discussions. That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, sir. Item 9, consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Ms. Johnson?
Vice Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lucas,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Butler,
Aye.
Mayor Rainey.
Aye. Item 10, old business, there is none. Item 11, new business. Vice Mayor.
Item A, first reading of ordinance 2021-02, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Fairview by rezoning 1.58 acres of property located at 7109 Sleepy Hollow Road, Williamson County Tax Map 069, parcel 055.00, from RS 40, single-family low-density residential, to R20, single-family medium-density residential, owner Nicholas Vaco.
One here to speak on that, or do we have information about that?
Yes, Mayor, members of the commission, this item has gone through the planning commission that comes before you tonight. The petitioner, Mr. Vaco, has requested this, a division of the lot from R40 to RS20 so he can build a single-family home or have a single-family home built on the larger open property that will be created by the subdivision.
And this will send it to a public hearing.
Yes, we'll have a first reading and then follow-up.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Johnson?
Commissioner Lucas,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Butler,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Mayor Rainey.
Aye. New business item B, Vice Mayor Anderson.
First reading of ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Fairview by rezoning .89 acres of property located at 7001 City Center Way, Williamson County Tax Map 042, parcel 168.10, from MSMU Main Street Mixed Use to CG Commercial General, owner Family Advantage Federal Credit Union.
Is there a motion that we open this to discussion?
First. Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Collins, do you want to tell us about this?
Yes, Mayor, this item also has passed the planning commission. The proposed use that the applicant suggested was a car wash on this site. We have had some concern on this site in the past about its accessibility. The primary accessibility through this site is through the Hardee's parking lot on the back side as you enter where the drive-through would be, so that's limited its development. The applicant in this case has suggested, and the information he submitted supports the idea that his proposed use on the property would effectively be one-way on the property itself, which would make the access that we have currently appropriate for that type of use and the traffic on the site. It also meets the commercial general designation they're asking for outside of the currently existing overlay.
Any other discussion?
Has the Water Authority of Dix County approved this? Has it been approached or discussed yet?
Commissioner Butler, it's my understanding they have reviewed this. Obviously, given the nature of the business, they would have to do that, but it's my understanding that they have addressed the water usage concerns or accessibility for that site. Also, just as a point of reference, if they're, depending on questions, just to make sure the motion was a motion to approve or deny. I just want to make
Sorry, motion to approve.
Okay.
Mayor, I have something as well. So we are working through the process of determining what our commercial zoning names are going to be specifically. And I know that we've been working on that for the past month or so. And I know that the past 2 commercial properties that have come into play have been denied, waiting for that to be in place. Although I'd like to go ahead and vote on this, we have denied, just to make everybody aware, we've denied 2 others, waiting on that, I guess, approval of our new zoning. Do we have an idea when that book of business is going to be complete?
Commissioner Dawson, we're obviously working to do that. I wouldn't expect the commercial work to be done before April, likely May. This specific question did come up at the Planning Commission meeting, and the question was similar to yours of would this use meet the future considered zoning if we get that far? And the answer was yes. The reason why was because of the limited access to the site. The issue with this site, again, is its accessibility. So there are limited uses, regardless of the zoning, that would actually apply that could utilize the limited access they have. So at the Planning Commission meeting and in discussions with the developer, that concern was addressed. In fact, the American Family Credit Union, the current owner, who has applied for this, even a credit union, the traffic inside of a credit union and access to and from was unable to be met simply because of the limited access to this site. So with this, we believe that given that it's a one-way in, one-way out, and a one-way use across the property, there are going to be limited businesses that offer that opportunity to manage the traffic on that site, and that's why that came with a favorable recommendation, and would so regardless of the zoning.
And just a reminder, this is just a motion to open it for public hearing. After the public hearing, it can still be voted up or down. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Johnson?
Commissioner Lucas?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson?
Aye.
Commissioner Butler?
Aye.
Mayor Rainey?
Aye. New business, item C. Vice Mayor Anderson.
Item C, first reading of ordinance 2020-29, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Fairview by rezoning 1.24.43 acres of property consisting of map 043, parcel 006.00, and map 043, parcel 026.00, located at Waynes Lane and Mangrum Lane, from RS40, single-family low-density residential, to an R20, single-family medium-density residential, planned overlay development, and approving a master development plan, owners Corey Groves and Johnny Groves.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion for a public hearing dies.
I'd like to make a motion to defer to the next meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, just a point, just so everyone can understand, the motion that was previously made for the first reading, obviously these items require 2 readings and a public hearing. So just so everyone understands, that motion, which has failed, just so we know, the first and second reading are required and the public hearing. So just so everyone understands, that requires 2 votes, but this would have been the first of those 2 votes. So that maybe I'm not saying what I need to say, but the first reading would have been tonight. So the first reading moves the item forward for the second reading and the public hearing. It's not a conditional only to the public hearing. Just so everyone knows, once you get past first reading, there's only one reading that follows along with the public hearing.
Okay, please repeat that.
Once you
If
get
you
past-
can.
Once you get past the first reading, only one reading follows. You have the first reading, and then the public hearing, and the second reading.
Correct.
So I just didn't want there to be an impression that if this were to have passed, or if it comes up again, that it would be a vote for a public hearing, and then you would still have a first reading and a second reading. The first reading, in effect, starts the second reading and public hearing process, but it is the first of two.
Mayor, I've got a question for Mr. Collins.
Okay.
So if we don't allow the first reading to die and we make a second motion, can we make that second motion to postpone the first reading till the next BOC meeting?
There would be no requirement to do that. The first reading has already been made and died for lack of a second, so that motion has been removed. It can be made by any of the other members
Correct.
of the BOC at any time. And I believe the motion in the second right now is to defer the first reading to the meeting, the first reading to the meeting 2 weeks from tonight, as I understand it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think there was a little confusion about this was just a vote for a public hearing, which is not the case. And that's not what I just read. So I just, I want everybody to be clear that this was not a vote just to set a public hearing, right?
Correct. Excuse me, please. Again, you have two readings, the first reading, public hearing, second reading.
Yes.
So your first reading effectively serves as notice of the public hearing, the second reading that's coming before you. So what was read tonight was the first reading. Once the first reading takes place, then we would set the public hearing and the second reading.
So just so I can repeat this, since we already seem to be getting questions. We cannot have a public hearing until the first reading has been done.
No, ma'am. You can have a public hearing at any time.
Really?
Yes. There's no requirement that you have an item before you for a vote to have a public hearing. The BOC at any time can have a public hearing on any matter they choose. For this specific matter to go forward, it's required to have a public hearing.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
correct.
So
To
we have a
defer
motion.
to the next meeting.
We have a motion and a second to defer this agenda item to the next February meeting. Any other discussion?
Just my, Mayor, just my process behind that, and not to anyone's fault. I think it was rushed in. We just got this plan today, just an opportunity to try and further dig into it a little bit more. I understand we've talked about this is just moving it to the next, but essentially a vote tonight for approval would be moving it to that next step in the process. And as it sits right now, I would not be ready to vote for it. So in anticipation of, we could have discussion tonight to try and ask for some additional feedback. Maybe we could have another workshop before the next Board of Commissioners meeting to review some of these things and continued concerns that we get, just to make sure we're all clear and have clarity.
The developer has agreed that if we would like them to, they would come to our next BOC and they would do a workshop like we did before. So if that's something this board would like to do, and I realize we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Johnson?
Commissioner Butler,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lucas,
Aye.
Mayor Rainey.
Aye. New business, item D. Vice Mayor Anderson.
Item D, first reading of ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance to amend Title 11, Chapter 12, Section 11-1202 of the City of Fairview Municipal Code.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Could just get a little more information on it.
Mr. Collins?
Mayor, members of the commission, the definition or the current code, which is Title 11, Chapter 12, Section 11-1202, is quite antiquated. It is a code section that specifies the illegal activity of prowling within the city limits of the city of Fairview. The definition included in that section really is not applicable to today's climate or really enforceable legally. So the suggestion I have before you tonight is simply repeal that ordinance and allow the code section to remain as reserved for future use.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Johnson?
Commissioner Lucas?
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson?
Aye.
Commissioner Butler?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Rainey?
Aye. New business, item E. Vice Mayor Anderson.
Item E, first reading of ordinance 2021-05, an ordinance to amend Title 11, Chapter 12, Section 11-1203 of the City of Fairview Municipal Code.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Collins, would you like to explain to us what that one is?
Yes, Mayor, members of the commission, we have a similar issue that we had to the previous item before you. However, suggestion is not to repeal the ordinance, but to amend the ordinance. I'll read the existing ordinance describing vagrancy. The ordinance states it shall be unlawful for any person to beg or to solicit alms, or if without apparent lawful means to support, to willfully neglect to apply himself to some honest occupation. Again, somewhat problematic from a law enforcement standpoint. So the suggested amended language is it shall be unlawful for any person to beg or solicit alms while on any city-owned property or any public right-of-way. I don't believe we could legally enforce the requirement that someone obtain an occupation. And that's the reason for the change.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Johnson?
Commissioner Lucas?
Aye.
Commissioner Butler?
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Rainey?
Aye. New business, item F. Vice Mayor Anderson.
Item F, Resolution 02-21, a resolution of the City of Fairview, Tennessee, designating items and materials as surplus and authorizing their disposal. Fire hose.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Johnson?
Commissioner Lucas?
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson?
Aye.
Commissioner Butler?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Rainey?
Aye. Communications from Mayor and Commissioners. Commissioner Butler?
Yes, there are just two things I want to ask about. The first one is the public hearing process. Essentially, we almost feel like we've gotten to a motion if we're just moving it forward to get to the public hearing. Would it be appropriate, or what are the regulations of possibly a public hearing at the first meeting, at both meetings? If that makes sense, and I don't know what we're following, what the standards are, if it's a state standard or if it's just a Fairview thing, but it would be possible to maybe have it on that first reading to essentially open it up earlier.
You can always do that. You're required to have a public hearing for rezoning. You're required to have a public hearing for an annexation. Aside from that, you can have a public hearing at your wish, and it can be at the first or second reading if you choose. But historically speaking, you don't incur the effort of a public hearing unless you know it's going to get past at least one reading. But you can certainly do it earlier.
Thank you, sir. And then just my other question was about the joint conceptual workshop. I brought it up before between the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners. Before a large committee or something like this comes up, have a joint conceptual between the planning and the board on just a conceptual drawing, just to discuss, to talk about it. The zoning staff can present comprehensive land use map plat, how it meets, how it standards, what's our plans with roads, and just to kind of open it up before we get there, kind of like we had with this neighborhood a couple weeks ago, an open workshop, but maybe prior to the process, if that makes sense, and similar to some other stuff or some other municipalities around us. And do I need to add that to the agenda one night to make a motion to add it, or, you know, what would be the proper way to present that and discuss it further?
Commissioner Butler, I think the first thing to do would maybe have a couple of meetings with both boards to figure out what the parameters of that looks like, which certainly the staff will assist with doing. I don't know that I could give that answer right now without having some information to what those expectations were, and then figure out what that language were to look like.
Okay, I gotcha.
I'll certainly be glad to follow up on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Nothing further, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Dawson?
Yeah, I want to thank all of the community for stepping up and getting involved in the discussion. You know, I think it's a great thing when you're concerned, when you take issue to bring it to your representatives, to bring your concerns forward. And I certainly just want to appreciate everybody that's reaching out. I also want to thank the developer for reaching out as well to be able to provide solutions. And I think this is a testament of the Fairview citizens getting involved in shaping their future. So I want to thank all the citizens of Fairview, for sure. So this day in 1913, a little girl was born in Tuskegee, Alabama. Some 30 years later, a number of airmen graduated from the Tuskegee Institute and were shipped off to North Africa and Europe. They were sent there to fight for our freedom. Rosa Parks and the Tuskegee Airmen truly are American heroes. During this month, let us remember and celebrate all of our American heroes in the month of February. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lucas?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I got to meet with a couple of people at Cox Run subdivision this week, and kind of walk around and, you know, feel what your concerns are. And also, Dan Allen, the engineer and developer of the property that's proposed, called me and spoke with me at length and talked to me about how, resolution for the concerns. So I want us to, be able to come together and find resolution together for our community and the development as well. So I think we should just keep, talking and working together and just, moving forward with this and listening and letting every voice be heard. So that's kind of like where I would like to move forward with this. So I appreciate everyone who's come out and everyone who's contacted me and talked to me, and I hope that, I can, always be open and understand your concerns and help with that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, if it pleases the Board of Commissioners, could we schedule a workshop before the next meeting? And I would give you the date, but I don't know what the date is.
Mayor, I believe that'd be February 18. And we certainly can. You just need to let me know what time you want that to begin. We'll get that advertised.
I think 5 o'clock again, that's what time we started before. And then also, I wanted to thank everyone for being involved, but just a little housekeeping. Just as you want our respect, when you come and speak to us, we also would like your respect. So just a little housekeeping matter. Having nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I think I can adjourn it with one motion. We're adjourned.